This is not a full story on the Canning Stock route, and there's a reason for it.
Lake Gregory was in flood, and it had not only it was 1 in a 100-year flood. It had not only flooded out over the Canning Stock route, making it impassable, it had also flooded out over the flood detour, and then there's another flood detour which goes through Moolin, south of Algo, and that was flooded out as well. So it was just impossible to get onto the stock route.
This is the voice of Andrew Dwyer, owner of the Diamantina Touring Company. I have joined one of his expeditions along the world's longest stock route, the Canning Stock route in Western Australia. As it turned out, it was the last expedition along the Canning Stock route that the tour director, innovative bush chef, campfire rock star and desert expert Andrew Dwyer ever organised and led. After 37 years of desert expeditions, with countless trips down the Canning, the old desert fox just recently hung up his sweat-rimmed hat to retire. For Andrew, the flooding of Lake Gregory meant to ditch Plan A and pull out Plan B. Instead of heading north to the start of the Canning Stock route near Halls Creek, the new direction is west, a long way west, until we hit the Canning Stock route at Well 33 near the community of Coonawarra. Let's start at the beginning. We flew into Alice Springs the day before the start of our adventure, ready for a very early departure the next morning. Leaving Alice Springs behind, we drive along the Larapinta and then the Namachara Drive, with the sun just starting to touch the West MacDonnell Ranges. After the initial disappointment of not being able to experience the entire Canning Stock route, we are determined to celebrate the changed itinerary. It adds the spectacular ranges of Central Australia, Karku, a striking mountain with the most important Aboriginal ochre mine in Central Australia, some of the remote western desert communities, the picturesque Durba Hills, and masses of wildflowers to this epic road trip. Now back to day one, where the quartzite ranges of the West MacDonnell Ranges form the stunning backdrop. First stop this morning is Mount Sonder Lookout. It offers a classic Central Australia panorama. Shortly after, it is dirt. The adventure now starts in earnest. We're on the way to the indigenous community of Haast's Bluff. Soon the 20-metre high, multi-million-dollar steel cross on Memory Mountain comes into view. First proposed by the community in 2009, the vision to display a giant cross here came into reality in 2022. The community, established as a Lutheran mission in 1946, is home to Western Arrernte, Pintupi and Pinchinchara people. Photography and videography are a sensitive subject here in Haast's Bluff, like in all the other Western desert communities we visited, Papanya, Kintur and the remotest of all, Kiwirikura. The wish not to film and photograph people in these communities, unless explicitly invited, has to be respected. After leaving the community, the dramatic Haast's Bluff stays with us for a while. The prominent mountain was named in 1872 by the explorer Ernest Giles after the German-born New Zealand geologist Julius von Haast. Towards the end of the long first day, we drive through a section of beautiful desert oak forest. This is where we set up camp for the night. Now it is time to relax, to kick back and to reflect. The Canning Stock route is a rite of passage for every serious off-roader in Australia and a decent challenge to the stamina of man and vehicle. For Andrew, however, it is much more than that.
The challenge, combined with the beauty, combined with the heritage, it's those three things. And the fact that when you're travelling down there, you're following in the footsteps of both the well builders, but also the stockmen, the drovers.
Day 2 on our approach to the Canning Stock Route. Iconic Mount Wedge looms in the distance behind desert oaks as we hit the sandy tracks again. Masses of mala mala form a temporary distraction this morning. Then anticipation is building. Today's destination is Karku, a striking mountain in the southern Tanami desert. Access to and camping near the sacred mountain is only possible with a permit. The striking landmark rises abruptly out of the surrounding plains. Hidden on the mountain is the most important Aboriginal ochre mine in Central Australia. This mine has been used over a very long time and is still in use. Camp is out in the plains at a respectful distance from the mountain. All around, wildflowers bloom. Different species of mala mala create a desert garden of great beauty. The sun well below the horizon, it is now time to gather around the fire in expectancy of a great meal by bush chef Andrew. It is on nights like this that the grandeur and splendour of this desert hits home. The next morning begins with a walk through wildflowers. The track leading away from Karku runs through a healthy desert landscape covered in vegetation. Being looked after by the local Aboriginal people and the absence of grazing is making a huge difference. Then it is back into the vehicles on our long journey west, until an especially flower-rich section along the track interrupts progress. Amongst the flowering plants here is the curious upside-down plant, named so because the flowers are growing at the base of the plant. Honey grevilleas are also in flower. And so is the rattlepot grevillea. With all this floral abundance, it is hard to see this landscape as a desert. Topping off this astonishing floral display are the striking red flowers of the desert peas. With another night under the desert stars, we are now settling into a routine that will dominate the next 3 weeks. The next day brings a taste of things to come on the Canning Stock Route. Sandy tracks and many dunes that have to be negotiated. This is a perfect practice run for the drivers. Okay, let's try again. Then it is back into flat country, eating kilometre after kilometre heading straight west. The red track we are following is the Gary Junction Road, one of legendary Len Bedell's constructions. He really favoured a straight line between A and B. Curves are a rarity. A pit stop in the community of Keentour interrupts our dash west. Then we reach the border to Western Australia, a milestone location that warrants a stop. Our camp today is not far from the border, at an outstation amongst the picturesque Durba Hills. These hills are between the Great Sandy Desert to the north and the Gibson Desert to the south. With the sun slowly sinking below the horizon, we are heading into a night with a difference. Andrew is in the mood to perform.
I'll put my guns back down in the ground. I can't use them anymore. A long black cloud and it's coming on down. Feel I'm knocking on heaven's door.
We have now reached the extremely remote community of Kimberley. Thanks to Andrew's connections to some of the indigenous artists in Kimberley, we have the opportunity to purchase art directly from one of the artists. This video footage was filmed with permission. Not far from Kimberley, a lookout distracts temporarily. And then, finally, after 4 days of travelling due west, we reach well 33 and the Canning Stock route near the community of Kunawaragi. Well 33 is famous for its clean, sweet water, perfect for filling up our water tanks. In the community itself, it is the last opportunity for a shower, some shopping and filling up diesel. All this out of the way, our adventure along the Canning Stock route can finally begin. The Canning Stock route is a four-wheel drive track that runs from Savory Creek in the Kimberley to the small gold mining town of Wiluna in the Goldfields Esperance region. The total distance is well over 1,800 kilometers. This makes it, as some claim, the longest historic stock route in the world. We will be traveling about 1,000 kilometers of it. It is its fierce reputation of one of the greatest four-wheel drive adventures in Australia, if not the world, that makes the Canning Stock route a must-do for every self-respecting off-roader. Adjectives like arduous, isolated, challenging and unforgiving are often used in the context of the Canning Stock route. Relentless corrugation, steep, often double-crested sand dunes, rocky outcrops and great remoteness are the challenges. What is often less talked about, however, is the environment the route leads through. The Canning Stock route travels through awe-inspiring landscapes of great natural beauty. The terrain varies from expansive spinifex plains to lush wetlands, captivating dune systems, the tranquility of desert oak forests, rugged mountain ranges, dramatic escarpments, and surreal salt lakes. And that is what I'm interested in. We are now in the sandhill country of the Great Sandy Desert. High sand dunes alternate with dune slacks. Besides being the heart rate increasing playground for the drivers, this landscape has its own beauty. There is, however, a certain sameness in this vast landscape, and when something changes, the excitement level suddenly revs up. What is visible in the distance is Thring Rock, an imposing sandstone outcrop sitting like an island in this ocean of sand dunes. It is a place that warrants a lengthy stop. Named after Francis W. Thring, who was the third officer on John McDowell Stuart's expedition in 1860 to 1863, this isolated geological feature was used by cattle drovers on the Canning Stock Route as a landmark in this remote desert area. A brief and rewarding climb to the summit offers a panoramic treat, breathtaking views of the surrounding countryside. From up here, the enormity of the landscape seems to swallow our expedition. We are nothing more than mere specks in the incomprehensible vastness of the desert. Then it is back into the sand dunes. The Great Sandy Desert, located in northwestern Australia, is the nation's second largest desert, spanning approximately 267,000 square kilometers. This is about 3.5% of the Australian landmass. The climate is arid, with extreme temperatures and low sporadic rainfall. The vegetation includes spinifex grass and scattered shrubs, with rivers that only flow after rare rains. And yet, the Grand Sandy Desert is not a desert dominated by lifeless desolation. It is a heavily vegetated arid region. Even the dunes resemble arid gardens, as if planned by landscape artists. Decent-sized trees grow on their crests. The slopes are decorated with tussocks of spinifex and small flowering shrubs that contrast with the deep red sand. While the desert's main geographical features are vast sand dune fields or ergs, rocky outcrops become fixtures of our journey south. One of these rocky outcrops is our destination for the day, the Slate Range. Camp is set in a natural amphitheatre surrounded by steep-sided sandstone hills. Heritage and natural beauty come together here. Driving the Canning Stock route essentially means to make our way from well to well, like the drovers once did when the stock route was active. There are a total of 51 wells along the route. They were constructed between 1908 and 1910 under the leadership of Alfred Canning. The construction crew included well borers, cameleers, labourers and cooks. Aboriginal guides, often forcibly conscripted, were used to locate traditional water sources such as soaks and springs. Unfortunately, some of these wells were built directly over sacred Aboriginal water sites, disrupting traditional access. The wells were typically timber-lined and equipped with windlasses and troughs. The harsh desert conditions, termites and vandalism led to a rapid deterioration of the wells. In 1929, William Snell began refurbishing the route, but Alfred Canning was recalled to complete the work after Snell's efforts were criticised. Despite all these efforts, the Canning Stock route saw limited use, with only 28 cattle droves recorded between 1911 and 1959. During World War II, the wells were restored again for emergency use. Today, many wells have been preserved or restored for historical and tourism purposes, though many remain collapsed or inaccessible. These wells are absolutely essential for everyone tackling the Canning Stock route. Now back into the sand dunes with their constant challenges. The drive in some sections resembles a roller coaster ride. Then the landscape starts to change. Salt is entering the picture. We are approaching Lake Disappointment, another geographical facet of the Canning Stock Route. Lake Disappointment is a large salt lake located in the Little Sandy Desert of Western Australia. It spans approximately 160 kilometers in length and covers an area of 330 square kilometers, sitting at an elevation of 325 meters above sea level. The lake was named Lake Disappointment by explorer Frank Hahn in 1897, after he expected to find fresh water but instead encountered a dry salt pan. The lake is typically dry and only fills during rare, heavy rainfall events. Then the water has extremely high salinity, up to 10 times that of seawater, making it inhospitable to most aquatic life. This lake holds deep cultural significance for the Martu people, who consider it a sacred site tied to Dreamtime stories and ancestral spirits. Lake Disappointment lies within the Martu Native Title Determination Area. These are the facts. They, however, cannot convey the impact this amazing landscape has on you. In this vastness, time seems to slow and the soul expands. American singer and songwriter Maynard James Keenan once said that the desert is a very good place to find yourself, or lose yourself. Out there in the boundless horizons of Lake Disappointment, the silence lingers like the breath of eternity. Just listen. The next morning starts with a deviation from the usual routine. Freshly baked damper is on the breakfast menu. Our expedition now passes impressive groves of desert oak trees and giant termite mounds on the way to the picturesque but hypersaline Savory Creek. Savory Creek starts at an elevation of 633 meters southeast of the mining town of Newman in the Pilbara. After about 500 kilometers, the creek finally arrives at Lake Disappointment. For travellers along the Canning Stock Route, the crossing of this watercourse is notorious. After the creek had been flowing, a relatively rare event, the crossing becomes a challenge. Over the years, many vehicles ended up in a boggy mess here. For us, however, Savory Creek did not cause any problems. Safely on the other side, our adventure continues. We are still in sandhill country. Again, the sheer size of the landscape around us evokes a sense of isolation, freedom, and mystique in me. These landscapes challenge human presence, amplifying feelings of solitude and awe. Out here I can understand why we mythologize our deserts in art and story. I can comprehend why we see the desert not as a void, but a spiritual space, a canvas for dreams, fears and existential wonder. Before nightfall, the crew is out collecting firewood. It is going to be a long night with gourmet food and celebrations. What better stage for that than out in the vastness of this arid wilderness under a glittering night sky.
Happy birthday, dear Jeff. Happy birthday to you. Hooray! 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 For he's a jolly good fellow. For he's a jolly good fellow. For he's a jolly good fellow. And so say all of us. So say all of us. So say all of us.
The day after. The morning feels different. There is this undefined smell of change in the air. A darkening bank of clouds in the distance threatens rain. We are on the way to maybe the highlight of the whole trip, the Durba Hills. The Durba Hills are a striking geological formation where erosion has sculpted dramatic cliffs and boulder-strewn slopes. Highly anticipated, the prospect of rain dampens my enthusiasm. It also heightens the sense of exposure out here. We are aware that heavy rain could certainly throw a spanner in our trip. Then, while driving along the escarpment of the Durba Hills, the first drops fall. Conversation stops. Everyone retreats into their own thoughts. Are we facing an uncomfortable night? Will we get stuck here? The mood is subdued when our convoy rolls into Durba Springs, hidden within the ranges. Dick Smith, Australian entrepreneur and adventurer, described this hidden treasure as one of the most captivating places in all of Australia. An unusual forest of river gums survives here, sheltered by red sandstone walls and watered by permanent springs. For the time being, however, this extraordinary oasis lies under gloomy skies. But we shouldn't have worried. Camp was set up in a gap between showers, then one last bit of precipitation is followed by a rainbow. There was literally light at the end of that colourful phenomenon. Durba Springs offers us a dry night and a promise of a beautiful next day. The next day is for exploring, as we will stay a second night in this delightful spot. For the drovers along the Canning Stock route, the natural bowl-like shape of Durba Springs offered an ideal location for cattle camps. The drovers are long gone and nothing is left from those days, besides some names chiselled into the rock at one of the border holes. What makes this range truly special, however, lies outside the confines of the Durba Springs. The dramatic escarpment of the Durba Hills is home to significant Aboriginal rock art sites. These artworks are attributed to the Mato people, traditional custodian of the land. The rock art includes petroglyphs or engravings and pictographs, paintings. The art sites are often found in rock shelters and caves along the sandstone walls. Common motifs include human figures, animals, and geometric design, reflecting cultural stories, spiritual beliefs, and environmental observations. Some depictions are believed to be thousands of years old. These artworks are not just historical records. They are living cultural expressions, connecting past and present generations through story, land, and spirit. For everyone exploring these art sites, utmost respect must be a prerequisite. Please tread lightly. Wiluna, the end of the road for off-roaders following the Canning Stock route, is now only 470 kilometres away. But the stock route keeps on giving and changes yet again. The track becomes rocky and slow for a while before hitting sandhill country again, with the usual roller coaster ride over the dunes keeping us occupied. Then we arrive at well 12. Here we have another opportunity to stock up on our water supply. The next landmark that warrants a stop on our way south is Lake Aerodrome, a notable landmark along the Canning Stock route. It consists of two prominent salt lakes. Surrounding dunes offer scenic views and support the diverse desert vegetation. Continuing on our journey, we traverse the remarkable Ingabong Hills, pine-clad granite hills that add to the scenic variety of our journey. It is an epic landscape, very different to the sandhill country that characterized so much of the Canning Stock route. Within sight of the Ingabong Hills awaits a surprise. Another forest of white-trunked red river gums. Under its canopy hides well 6 or Pierre Springs, tonight's destination. This tranquil forest within the desert provides an ideal location for our campsite. We roll out our swags under the protective canopy of the mature river gums. While we are enjoying the warmth and comfort of the fire, the crew is busy preparing for steak night. It's Jerry's night tonight. So what are you doing? What are you cooking for us?
Oh, a grass-fed porterhouse steak.
And we're having it with truffle oil.
The next day starts with an unusual sight, a magnificent stand of grass trees. These extraordinary plants are neither truly grass nor trees, and this is the most northerly known stand of grass trees in Australia. Another highlight today are the windy springs, a stunning oasis with a sprawling sheet of water extending for nearly 400 meters. The water is enclosed by the towering presence of majestic river red gums. Continuing our drive south, we now cross the Frere Range via Snell's Pass, another slow, rocky section of the Canning Stock Route. It is one of the last reminders that the Canning Stock Route is not for the faint-hearted. We have now reached station land and the impact of grazing is clearly visible. And then the adventure ends, temporarily at least. We reached a large yellow sign announcing the beginning of the Canning Stock Route on the Wiluna side. Civilization is now near, introduced by 100 km speed on the Wiluna highway. Then our convoy rolls into town. Wiluna is a service town for gold mines nearby. For us it means a temporary and welcome dose of civilization marked by shopping, refueling and sightseeing. For four-wheel drive enthusiasts, Wiluna is the gateway to two epic outback adventures. The Canning Stock Route obviously, but also the Gun Barrel Highway that runs east to Alice Springs. A green road sign in town points out the directions to get onto the Gun Barrel Highway. It is a reality check. Alice Springs, our final destination of this epic outback trip, is still 1,886 kilometers away, and most of it is on dirt. So the adventure is not over. The return to Alice Springs, however, is a story for another time.